I endured years of her manipulation, but after her final mistake, she lost everything.
Hey everyone! Welcome to Tell Me Reddit, the channel where we dive into the most interesting, dramatic, and unbelievable stories from Reddit. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like to support the content. It really helps us bring you more amazing stories. So sit back, relax, and let's jump into another incredible Reddit story.
If you had told me a few years ago that marrying the love of my life would come with an unwanted side character straight out of a telenovela, I would have laughed. But here I am, living the nightmare that is my husband's sister, Vanessa. Vanessa, my dear, manipulative, two-faced sister-in-law, has made it her life's mission to ruin mine. From the very beginning, she was there, lurking in the shadows of our relationship, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When I first met her, I thought she was just a little overprotective of her brother. Sweet, right? Oh, how naive I was. It started small. Backhanded compliments, little jokes at my expense. Oh, you're wearing that dress? Bold choice. Wow, I guess my brother really likes simple girls. Harmless, right? That's what I told myself. But then came the real sabotage. At our engagement party, Vanessa conveniently forgot to invite several of my close friends and then claimed it was a mix-up. At the wedding, she wore a dress almost identical to mine, except more dramatic, with a train that could put a royal wedding to shame. And during our first year of marriage, she did everything in her power to stir up problems between me and my husband, Ryan. The worst part? She was good at it. Subtle. Crafty. Vanessa had this innocent, act that made it hard to call her out without sounding paranoid. She would say things to Ryan like, I overheard someone at work saying that women change after marriage. You don't feel like that's happening, do you? And suddenly, I was defending myself against an argument I didn't even know we were having. But no matter what she did, I held my ground. I wasn't going to let his jealous, obsessive sister dictate our lives. I figured she would eventually get bored and move on. I was wrong. Because Vanessa wasn't just petty, she was dangerous. And soon, she would prove just how far she was willing to go to get me out of the picture. If Vanessa had a talent, it was playing the long game. She knew exactly when to be venomous and when to play the innocent victim. And as time passed, her meddling reached new heights. It started with the little things that could be chalked up to coincidences. Ryan suddenly began forgetting plans we had made, claiming that Vanessa had told him I probably wouldn't want to go. Our in-laws started looking at me differently, as if they had heard something troubling, but didn't want to say it outright. And then there were the whispers, casual little remarks dropped at just the right moment. She doesn't really seem family-oriented, does she? I don't think she means to be selfish, but, well, you know how independent women can be. I wasn't stupid. I knew Vanessa was behind it. But confronting her directly was impossible because she always had deniability on her side. Oh, that's just a misunderstanding, she'd giggle, or, you're being too sensitive. And Ryan? He was blind to it. She's just protective of me, he'd say. You know how she is. Yes, I did. And she was getting worse. Then came the bigger stunts. Vanessa had a way of turning even our happiest moments into disasters. When Ryan and I bought our first home, she showed up unannounced with a housewarming gift, a massive framed picture of her and Ryan as kids. I thought this would really make it feel like home, she said with a sweet smile, as if I wasn't part of this new life at all. When I got a promotion at work, Vanessa twisted it into something ugly. Oh wow, that's great. But poor Ryan, you must feel a little insecure now, huh? I mean, men like to be the providers. But the final straw? My pregnancy announcement. Ryan and I had planned a small, intimate dinner to share the news with his family. It was supposed to be our moment. But Vanessa had a different plan. The second we made the announcement, she gasped loudly and grabbed her stomach. Oh my God, she whimpered. I think I'm having a panic attack. Cue the entire family rushing to her side, completely forgetting about our news while she dramatically fanned herself. I'm just so overwhelmed with emotions, she said weakly. I never thought my brother would move on so much without me. And just like that, our special moment was gone. She had stolen it like she had stolen every other milestone. But this time, I wasn't just hurt. I was furious. Vanessa wasn't just trying to annoy me anymore. She wanted me erased. And I had a feeling she wasn't going to stop until she got exactly what she wanted. By the time Vanessa had successfully stolen our pregnancy announcement, I had come to expect nothing less from her. But as my belly grew, so did my determination to stop letting her control the narrative of my life. I started keeping my distance. I stopped sharing personal details with her. I refused to react to her little digs and manipulations. If she couldn't get a rise out of me, she had nothing to twist against me. And for a while, it seemed to work. Then my baby shower happened. It was supposed to be a beautiful celebration, hosted by my best friend, Laura. We had planned every detail, the decorations, the games, the guest list. And, most importantly, Vanessa was not invited. I didn't trust her to behave, and I wasn't about to let her ruin another milestone. Of course, that didn't stop her. An hour into the party, just as I was opening gifts, the doors burst open. And there she was, standing in the doorway, clutching her phone with a devastated look on her face. "Oh my God," she gasped, loud enough to silence the entire room. I just got the worst news. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her. The sheer audacity. Laura was less patient. "Vanessa, this is a private event." Vanessa ignored her and turned to me, her voice trembling. "I know you and I have had our differences, but I just found out that one of my childhood friends died today." I didn't know where else to go. The room was dead silent. I could feel everyone glancing between me and Vanessa, waiting to see how I'd react. She had thrown a grenade into the middle of my celebration, and now I was supposed to comfort her? My hands clenched. I took a deep breath. And then I stood up, walked over to her, and whispered just loud enough for her to hear. "Get out!" Her eyes widened, and for the first time ever, she looked genuinely caught off guard. "What?" "You heard me," I said. "You don't get to do this anymore." The mask slipped for just a second. A flicker of rage crossed her face before she forced out a wounded expression. "I can't believe how heartless you're being." I smiled. I learned from the best. Laura didn't wait for any more theatrics. She grabbed Vanessa by the arm and led her straight to the door. The moment it shut behind her, the entire room exhaled. "She's insane," someone muttered. "She's desperate," I corrected. And I knew, deep down, that this wasn't over. Vanessa wasn't just lashing out, she was escalating. And I had a feeling things were about to take a very dangerous turn. After the baby shower disaster, I knew Vanessa wouldn't back down. But even I wasn't prepared for how quickly things would spiral. At first, it was the usual nonsense, passive-aggressive social media posts, dramatic sighs whenever I was in the same room, vague concerns she voiced to my in-laws about my stress levels. But then, her tactics changed. She started playing the role of the reformed villain. She showed up unannounced one afternoon with a fresh-baked pie, smiling like we were old friends. "I just want to make things right," she said sweetly. "For the baby's sake." I didn't buy it. But Ryan? He wanted to believe her. "Maybe she's finally letting go of the drama," he said, biting into the pie. "People can change. People can. Vanessa doesn't." Then, little things started happening. Twice, I found my food tasting off, just slightly bitter. I figured it was my pregnancy making me more sensitive to flavors. But when Laura took a sip of my tea one afternoon and immediately gagged, her face twisting in disgust, I felt a chill run down my spine. "That tastes wrong," she said, running to spit it out in the sink. "Like chemicals." I dumped the rest of the tea and tried to shake it off, but my unease only grew. Vanessa had started offering to bring me meals, little snacks she claimed were good for the baby. I refused most of them, making up excuses, but one night, Ryan accepted on my behalf. I stared at the soup she had lovingly packed, my stomach turning. Was I being paranoid? I took one cautious sip. My tongue tingled. "Do you taste anything weird?" I asked Ryan, handing him the spoon. He took a bite and shrugged. "Tastes fine to me." I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe the stress was getting to me. Maybe I was seeing monsters where there were none. But then, the next day Ryan got sick. Violently sick. And suddenly, I wasn't so sure anymore. Ryan had always been the type to brush things off. Stomach cramps? Probably something he ate. Dizziness? Just dehydration. But when I found him hunched over the toilet at 3 a.m., pale and shaking, I knew this wasn't something we could ignore. He groaned, gripping his stomach. I feel like I've been hit by a truck. I felt my own stomach twist. That soup. The one Vanessa had so generously brought over. The one I barely touched. Ryan, I said carefully, my voice barely above a whisper. What if it was the food? He waved me off, exhausted. Babe, I think I'd know if I was poisoned. Would he, though? By morning, he was worse. Sweating, barely able to stand. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my keys and drove him straight to the ER. Doctors ran tests, asked questions. And when one of them returned with a grave expression, my pulse pounded in my ears. Your husband has signs of food poisoning, the doctor said. A particularly aggressive kind. I swallowed hard. Aggressive how? There's a toxin in his system, she explained. We're treating him, but we need to know, has he eaten anything unusual? I felt the room tilt slightly. Soup, I whispered. His sister brought soup. The doctor's eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite place. Do you still have any of it? My blood turned ice cold. Back at home, I grabbed the container from the fridge and rushed it back to the hospital. They took samples, ran more tests, and I sat by Ryan's bedside, my hands shaking. Was I really thinking what I thought I was thinking? That Vanessa, petty, vindictive Vanessa, had done this? But then, the doctor returned. And her next words confirmed every single fear I had. There was something in the soup, she said, carefully choosing her words. A substance that, in small doses, causes food poisoning. But in larger amounts, she trailed off. I didn't need her to finish. Ryan stirred in the hospital bed. Babe, he mumbled. What's going on? I squeezed his hand, trying to keep my voice steady. Just rest. Because the truth was too big to say out loud. Vanessa had tried to poison me. And she had nearly killed my husband instead. Ryan was stable, but the weight of what had happened pressed down on me like a vice. The doctors knew. I knew. But how do you prove something like this? How do you look at your husband and tell him his own sister tried to poison his wife and nearly got him instead? I didn't have the answers. But I knew where to start. The first thing I did was call Laura. She had always been my rock, my voice of reason. When I told her what happened, she didn't hesitate. We're finding proof. Now, we started with the security cameras. Laura had installed one in her living room during my baby shower after Vanessa had tried to crash one of her parties before. You never know with that one, she had joked. Turns out, she was right. We fast-forwarded through the footage, and there she was, Vanessa, smirking as she placed a small vial into her purse before walking into my home, carrying the cursed soup. My stomach twisted. That's it, I whispered. That's our proof. Laura's grip on my arm tightened. We take this to the police. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted there to be another explanation, some ridiculous misunderstanding. But the pieces clicked together too perfectly. The bitter taste in my tea. The way Vanessa had been so insistent that I eat the soup. The fact that she knew I had been avoiding her food, yet still pushed it on me through Ryan. This wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. And it nearly killed my husband. The drive to the police station felt surreal. I clutched the USB drive with the footage in one hand, the hospital report in the other. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was solid. When I explained everything to the officer at the front desk, he listened carefully, taking notes, occasionally glancing up with barely concealed shock. You're saying your sister-in-law deliberately poisoned food meant for you? I nodded. And my husband ate it instead. He exhaled slowly. You have proof? Wordlessly, I slid the USB drive across the desk. He picked it up, giving me a long, assessing look. Then, with a curt nod, he stood. We'll look into this immediately. And just like that, the wheels of justice were set in motion. Vanessa had spent years making my life miserable. Now, she was about to face the consequences. The waiting was the worst part. After filing the report, I spent the next 2 days jumping at every phone call, expecting the police to say they had arrested Vanessa. Or worse, that they had dismissed everything, that it wasn't enough proof, that she would walk away scot-free like she always did. Then, on the third day, my phone rang. "This is Officer Ramirez," the voice on the other end said. "We need you and your husband to come in for a formal statement." My breath caught. "Did you?" "We've reviewed the footage. We have questions." That was enough. Ryan was still recovering, but when I told him what was happening, he didn't hesitate. He finally understood. The Vanessa he had spent his life defending wasn't just petty. She was dangerous. At the station, we were taken into a private room where Ramirez and another detective sat across from us, the file with Vanessa's name on it sitting ominously between us. "We've reviewed the footage from the baby shower," Ramirez said. "It's compelling." I frowned. "Compelling?" "It shows her with the vial." "It does," he admitted. "But the footage alone doesn't prove what was in it." My stomach twisted. "But the hospital confirmed." "We know," he said quickly. "That's why we're moving forward. We have enough to bring her in for questioning." Ryan clenched his jaw. "And if she denies it?" The detective next to Ramirez smirked. "She won't have much room to." "We also got a search warrant." I blinked. "You what?" Ramirez nodded. "We searched Vanessa's home this morning." He flipped open the folder, pulling out a photo. A small vial sat on a counter, next to a partially opened bottle of something I couldn't quite make out. Ryan went rigid. "That's it." Ramirez closed the file. "She had multiple substances that match what was found in your husband's system. She's being brought in for questioning now." I exhaled sharply. "So what happens next?" "She'll either talk or lawyer up," Ramirez said simply. "Either way, this isn't going away." For the first time in years, I felt something close to relief. Vanessa had spent years making me look crazy, gaslighting me, manipulating my family. Now, she was the one with no way out. And I was finally getting my justice. Vanessa had always been untouchable. She was the master of manipulation, always twisting the narrative to her advantage. But this time, the story wasn't hers to control. Because this time, there was evidence. Her arrest sent shockwaves through the family. My in-laws were in complete denial at first. Ryan's mother clutched her pearls and gasped, "This has to be a mistake." His father went silent, his face pale, as if his entire world had cracked in half. But Ryan? He didn't say anything. He just looked tired, like he was mourning the sister he thought he knew. The trial process was slow. Vanessa had hired a lawyer, one of those smug, high-priced types who oozed confidence. She pleaded not guilty, of course. Claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that she had no idea how those substances got into Ryan's food. But the prosecution had the footage. They had the toxicology reports. They had everything. And the jury saw right through her. I sat in that courtroom every single day, listening as Vanessa's lawyer tried to spin the story. She was concerned for her brother's wife, he argued. She only wanted to help. The prosecutor didn't even blink. By lacing her food with harmful substances? Vanessa sat there, her face a perfect mask of innocence. But her eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, told another story. Then came the moment that sealed her fate. Ryan took the stand. I knew it was hard for him. This was his sister, his childhood best friend, the person he once trusted above anyone else. But when they asked him about the soup, the illness, the years of manipulation, he told the truth. And that was the final nail in Vanessa's coffin. When the guilty verdict came, there was no outburst, no dramatic gasp from Vanessa. She just sat there, her hands folded neatly, as if she had already accepted it. But when they took her away, she turned to me. And for the first time, I saw real hatred in her eyes. "This isn't over," she mouthed. But she was wrong. It was over. Because she no longer had control over me, my marriage, or my life. Justice had been served. After the trial, the dust began to settle, but the damage Vanessa left behind remained. Ryan's parents were devastated. Not just because their daughter was going to prison, but because they could no longer pretend she was the perfect child they had always believed her to be. I caught my mother-in-law crying more than once, whispering about how she should have seen the signs. But I didn't feel sorry for them. They had enabled her for years. They had excused her behavior, turned a blind eye, let her destroy every milestone in my life without ever stepping in. And now that Vanessa was gone, they were scrambling to understand how their family had fallen apart. Ryan, to his credit, never wavered. He grieved the sister he thought he had, but he never once tried to excuse what she did. He stayed by my side, every step of the way. She made her choice, he said one night as we lay in bed. She chose to destroy, and now she's living with the consequences. For the first time, I truly believed that we had won. Then, a letter arrived. From Vanessa. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short. No apologies. No acceptance of guilt. Just one chilling line that sent a shiver down my spine. You may have won this battle, but you'll never erase me. I'll always be a part of your life. I set the letter down, exhaling slowly. Laura burned it for me that same day. The family tried to mend itself after that, but things were never the same. Ryan's parents still saw us, but the warmth was gone. I wasn't their enemy anymore, but I wasn't truly accepted either. I was just the woman who had survived their daughter's wrath. Fine by me. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their validation. I had Ryan, I had my baby on the way, and most importantly, I had my peace. Vanessa's story was over. And mine was just beginning. For the first time in what felt like forever, my life was mine again. No more Vanessa. No more manipulations. No more constant battles just to exist in my own marriage. The weeks after the trial were eerily quiet. I had expected more fallout, some last desperate attempt from my in-laws to justify what had happened, to shift the blame somewhere else. But they had nothing left to say. Ryan's mother still called, but the conversations were hollow, as if she were speaking through a fog of disbelief. His father barely spoke at all. And Ryan? He stopped trying to fix what was broken. She made her choices, he told me one night, his hand resting on my pregnant belly. Now we make ours. And that's exactly what we did. We moved a month later. Not far, but far enough. A new home, a fresh start, a place where Vanessa's shadow couldn't reach us. The first night in our new house, I stood in the nursery, running my fingers over the crib we had just assembled. For so long, I had lived in a constant state of stress, of fear. But now, in that quiet room, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. Ryan wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. She doesn't get to define us, he murmured. Not anymore. I turned to face him, placing my hands on his chest. We're finally free. He smiled. Yeah, we are. The day our baby was born, I knew Vanessa was nothing more than a distant nightmare. As I held my daughter in my arms, staring into her tiny, perfect face, I realized that all the pain, all the battles, all the nights I had cried myself to sleep because of Vanessa's cruelty, they didn't matter anymore. She had tried to take everything from me. But in the end, I had won. I had my husband, my child, my future. Vanessa was gone. And I had never felt lighter. The end.